Jurassic World Evolution 2 ended with 122 species. I propose that Jurassic World Evolution 3 launches with only half of those. Whoa, not yet! Give a girl a minute! Let me explain. In this video, I will share the 15 brand new species that I would like to see in Jurassic World Evolution 3, or whatever it's gonna be called, at launch, and we'll get to that, because as much as I'm looking forward to a new version of the game that hopefully has way more creative tools, adding new species adds to the excitement of getting a new game and building new parks. We don't want to wait until the first DLC to have new dinosaurs. But before we get to my 15 species pick, I want to talk about something else first. Because a starting roster of 137 is, frankly, crazy. Especially considering that there will be DLC down the line adding even more. We are set up to end up with an overbloated roster when, in my opinion, there are more important aspects to the game that I'd rather see Frontier invest their resources into. One of those things being breeding. Baby dinosaurs. Hello, my name is Evo, and I want baby dinosaurs in Jurassic World Evolution 3. And I'm not alone in this. It is one of the most requested things, and I think it would go a long way in justifying the existence of a third game. Not just adding a whole bunch of cuteness, but also a new level to population management. And on top of that, life finding a way, dinosaurs procreating, is a pivotal part of the franchise recurring throughout, and should, in my opinion, make it into the game. Finally. There's a part of the community that doesn't need to be told this. They readily agree with this, and they want Jurassic World Evolution 3 to launch with all 122 species, including their baby models. There's another part of the community who dismisses the idea of baby dinosaurs altogether because it's too much work, it's impossible, it's not worth the effort. And I disagree with both. So I'm not making a lot of friends here, am I? I don't think it's realistic to expect Frontier to make 122 baby models for Jurassic World Evolution 3 to launch with a full roster of breeding dinosaurs, but I also don't think this is an impossible problem to solve. And that we should just throw up our hands and be like, oh well, it's okay Frontier, we don't expect you to go the extra mile. Planet Zoo launched in 2019 with 74 animals in the base game, 77 if you got the deluxe edition. Of the base game, 23 of those species are exhibit animals, if I counted correctly. So let's say, for ease, 50 fully fledged, free-roaming individual species, all with their own baby models. So Frontier managed to make 50 unique adult models and 50 unique baby models for the launch of Planet Zoo, along with over 20 exhibit animals. Logically, technically, this is a doable amount for them for a species roster at launch, because they've already set that precedent. Jurassic World Evolution 1 launched with only 37 species, and Jurassic World Evolution 2 launched with 75, the vast majority of which simply upgrades of their Jurassic World Evolution 1 models. Comparing the two Evolution games' launch rosters with Planet Zoo, it seems Frontier didn't put in as much legwork with their dinosaurs. And I do think, I will fully admit, that it's most likely that Jurassic World Evolution 3 will launch with the same 122 species, maybe a handful of new ones, and no baby dinosaurs. But that's not what I personally want. I, in my infinite wisdom, don't think it's undoable, impossible for Frontier to launch Jurassic World Evolution 3 with, let's say, 75 species. About the same as Planet Zoo. 60 of those taken from Jurassic World Evolution 2, 15 new ones, all of them with baby variants. That's more work than they did for the previous two iterations, but less work than what they did for Planet Zoo, where every single model had to be made from scratch for launch. I can't look into Frontier's kitchen or their cash drawer, I don't know what they're working with, but from an outside perspective, I think 75 species should be doable for the reasons I already discussed. And I think 75 is also, on the flip side, a fair starting roster for the players. Now, of course, I am not saying that the 62 species from Jurassic World Evolution 2 that won't be in the third game in my proposal here will be resold to us in DLC. What I'm suggesting is that Frontier spreads out the workload of bringing these species from the second game to the third. Instead of racing to get all 122 ready at launch, they just do half, and the other half gets added bit by bit in the free updates. As a business model, this could very well be unviable. Again, I won't pretend to know the inner workings of Frontier, but it's the best middle ground I can think of to make a compromise at launch to allow for baby animals, while at the same time not forcing people to repay for content that they felt they already purchased. And I do think an argument could be made that re-adding these species with their baby variants in free updates during what I'd hope to be a long life cycle for the game, more like how Planet Zoo has been supported for 5 years now, I could argue that will keep a big portion of their player base engaged, the people who just keep coming back periodically for the dinosaurs. And maybe getting these dinosaurs in the free updates keeps their love for park building ignited and encourages them to buy the DLCs that come out along with the free updates. I know this is a controversial take, but let me know in the comments down below what you think of this being a possible approach to the game. Cutting 62 species from the roster at launch is a tough job that I wouldn't want. And making us wait for them is inevitably going to mean that someone's favorite dinosaur, many people's favorite dinosaur, might not get added until months into Jurassic World Evolution 3's development, which sucks. But it would eventually get added. You would know that it is coming. And if you're impatient, you can always hop back into Jurassic World Evolution 2 for a bit. And maybe that's another argument to be made in favor of my proposal. By doing this, Jurassic World Evolution 2 doesn't instantly become obsolete with the launch of the third game, as it will have dinosaurs in it not yet in the third game. I think it's a risky but interesting option. I'll be curious to see what Frontier actually does with the roster at launch, and of course if you want to stay up to date on the news for the upcoming game, subscribe to the channel. Now in the second part of the video, I'll go over the 15 new species that I'd add at launch. Emphasis on at launch. These are the species I'd give priority to. Obviously, there are many more species that I would love to see get added in DLC, although I would be okay with Frontier adding fewer new species in DLCs, focusing new content on the park building tools instead. As we've covered at length at this point, one of the new aspects to the game that I'd want are baby dinosaurs. And there are two other dinosaur related upgrades that I hope the third game will bring to make it stand out from the second. That being Cenozoic species and semi-aquatic species that actually are able to function semi-aquatically in the game because we'd have tools to allow for that. Most of my 15 species at launch fall into those categories to flesh that part of the park building out right from day one. I'm dedicating 8 of the 15 slots of new species to the Cenozoic era because I agree that if we're going to add species from this time period, we should have quite a few to make it make sense. As we talked about for Jurassic World Evolution 2, just a pack of 4 in a DLC would make them feel quite out of place in our parks. But I also wouldn't want them to use more than one pack to fill out the Cenozoic roster. Hence, we're front-loading a lot of Cenozoics into the game at launch with these 8 additions. So for the Cenozoics, I'd add, at launch, Woolly Mammoth, Paraceratherium, Smilodon, Basilosaurus, Woolly Rhino, a terror bird like Kalenkin or Titanus, a species of Glyptodont, and the 8th and last Cenozoic species would be Titanoboa. An absolute nightmare to animate on uneven ground, but a much wanted species, and not only a Cenozoic species, but a semi-aquatic as well. I think these 8 together make for a varied collection of Cenozoics in our parks to make that make sense right off the bat. Moving on to the remaining 7 species. In the interest of adding some semi-aquatics to go with what I'd hope to be a new building tool for deeper waters and connecting lagoons to land exhibits, I would add Sarcosuchus and Irritator, along with Titanoboa and old semi-aquatic species like Spinosaurus, Baryonyx, Suchomimus, Nothosaurus, Pyroraptor, Dimetrodon. I think that's a decent number of species to start with, and then a later DLC could be dedicated to adding 4 more semi-aquatics. I think that would be enough to justify that being added as a building feature in the game, a building tool. The last 5 species I also chose to either fill out niches or highlight new game features. So number 11 of 15 that I would add is Shantongosaurus, which is my personal most wanted species, but it would also be the poster dinosaur for a new ability of Hadrosaurs being able to fight back, with Shant being able to fight off even the biggest theropods with the right stats. Number 12, Argentinosaurus for the same reason as the Shant. Number 13, Plateosaurus, as the roster is in dire need of more Triassic representation. I initially had Postosuchus as my pick, but I switched it to Plateosaurus as I think it will be the more popular pick. And while this video is very much a personal wish list, I also want to strike a balance between what I want, what I think most other people want, and what I think should be doable for Frontier. 14 would be Microraptor, with Basilosaurus being the new lagoon species. Microraptor would be the new aviary species, ticking those 2 boxes. And lastly, the 15th species that I would add at launch as like a brand new species is Beckel's Spinax, the obligatory tie-in with Chaos Theory. Obviously, this wishlist doesn't and can't take into account what new species might come in the 2nd season of Chaos Theory and Jurassic World Rebirth, of course. Maybe Chaos Theory will get more new species and then it makes more sense to put them into a DLC rather than the base roster. For new species from the movie, what they could do is the same as what they did with the first game and put those species in a deluxe version of the game. That concludes my idea for the starting roster of Jurassic World Evolution 3. Comment your own dinosaur wish list in a comment down below. Inevitably, when I mention wanting baby dinosaurs and Cenozoic species for Jurassic World Evolution 3, people comment, "So basically, you want Prehistoric Kingdom. Why don't you just play Prehistoric Kingdom?" The differences between the Evolution games and PK go far beyond babies and Cenozoics. Yeah, they're both prehistoric park builders, but they are vastly different games. Even if Jurassic World Evolution 3 will indeed have babies and Cenozoics as I would want. If Jurassic World Evolution 3 also gets modular building, then they would become very similar, and you'd have a point. But I'm not asking for Jurassic World Evolution 3 to get modular building. I think that's where the 2 games should remain different. If you enjoyed this video, in spite of my controversial idea, give the video a like. Please remember that you don't need to worry that me saying this means Frontier is gonna do it just because I said it. We don't know what Frontier is gonna do it. They're not gonna listen to me, okay? They have their own plan that they're executing right now. We don't know what it is yet. But I am looking forward to finding out. Check out the videos on the channel while we await news on the game. You made it this far, so I think you'll like these. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.